Hello everyone and welcome back to Tale by Belle. I'm your host, Bella Wee. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. As we wrap up the first season, I wanted to take some time to reflect on the stories we've shared and what they've meant to me personally. Each of these stories has left a lasting impression in me, and I'm excited to share my thoughts with you. Let's start with The Walrus and the Carpenter. This whimsical poem by Lewis Carroll is one of my favorites. What stands out to me most is the playful yet poignant commentary on leadership and trust. The Walrus and the Carpenter lure the unsuspecting and unawakened oysters with promises and charm, only to betray them. But instead of focusing on the deceptive nature of the walrus, I think I more resonated with the oysters because it is so easy to just go on our days and blindly follow whatever we've been told to do. So this story reminds us of the importance of critical thinking, not taking things at face value, and always doing research to avoid falling traps into fake news and scams. Next, let's talk about Jack and the Beanstalk. I would like to share the two most important layers of this rich story. Firstly, when I'm retelling this classic tale, instead of portraying the giant as the villain, I wanted to kind of bring in a different perspective towards whom we normally would consider a villain in our lives. To me, the giant is someone who's minding his own business and just happily resides in his castle. Jack is the one who is curious and takes risks. He bravely pursues the development of the magic beans. So these two characters are just doing their best in their separate lives, but have the opportunity to meet, and their paths are now entwined. But instead of destroying each other, they help each other to grow as a better version of themselves. This is powerful. I mean, how many of us would actually resolve any kind of conflict with a person we consider as our villain in our lives? And instead of seeking revenge, we can be like Jack and try to understand that person and seek harmony instead. The second layer of the story I ruminate a lot is about the magic beans. You see, it's important to note that Jack used his cow to trade for the magic beans in the first place. We can think of the cow as our time and energy, which we trade for our talents. In other words, we hone our skills by spending time and energy practicing, like training football, playing the violin, writing, painting, you name it. Then we meet a figure in our lives, like Jack's mother, who doesn't believe in magic, who thinks our talents are garbage and throws them away. But our talents, or the magic beans, when used at the right place, like the soil outside Jack's house, and at the right time, note that Jack was actually awake while the beanstalk was growing, can become something amazing. This reminds us of the famous quote by the Roman philosopher Seneca, who said, "Luck is when preparation meets opportunity." Now, Jack was lucky for sure, but it was the fact that he was there, awake, at the right moment to climb the beanstalk, while many of the villagers were sound asleep, including his skeptical mother, was the very reason why he was able to reap the treasure. Moving on to Queen Grimhilda, often known as the evil queen from Snow White. What fascinates me about her story is the depth of her character. You see, she's not just one-dimensional villain. While doing her character study, I learned the truth of her downward spiral. Now let's put her murderous action aside. From the story, we see Grimhilda as a mere human being with a broken heart. Not having the chance to meet her mother, let alone receive love from her, being isolated by her father, and finally being separated from her one true love. It's only understandable how she was affected by all these traumatic experiences. But the intention of retelling this story is not to justify her evil doings. When an evil thought arises, it's important to find out the root or the cause of where it stems from so that we can chop off the root and make a better choice. Then there's 22 from Pixar's Soul. 22's journey in finding purpose is deeply touching and philosophical. What I found most moving was the idea that life's purpose isn't about grand achievements, but about appreciating the small, everyday moments. How often we hear people say, smell the roses, carpe diem, enjoy the journey, yet fail miserably to live in the moment, to really treasure what we have instead of focusing on what we lack. I know it's easy to get distracted by other people's successes or accomplishments, especially in this social media driven world where everybody's sharing and posting their finest moments. So it's easy to compare and think that we must be doing something wrong if we don't have this quote unquote spark in life. But I sincerely believe that we all have our roles to play. And in this gigantic universe, no role is superior to the other. If you play your role responsibly, you contribute. Now, let's dive into the character of the Mad Hatter from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. The Mad Hatter is such an intriguing figure because of his eccentricity and the way he challenges conventional thinking. His perpetual tea party and nonsensical riddles embody the theme of madness. But there's a deeper layer to his character. To me, the Mad Hatter represents the freedom to embrace one's uniqueness and the value of creativity. His world, though chaotic, invites us to question the norms and embrace a more playful, imaginative approach to life. Bearing his family curse, Mad Hatter chose to embrace instead of running away. Even though he could easily abandon his family business and venture into another career, he chose to stay. Not because he was too afraid. On the contrary, he was full of courage to be his true self. Everyone is normal till you get to know them. I think we are all weird in some sense, and this story tells us it's okay. Be quirky, be eccentric, be you. Turning to Dame Gothel, the enigmatic enchantress from the tale of Rapunzel, often misunderstood and portrayed as a villain. Dame Gothel's tale is one of love, sacrifice, and the complexities of motherhood. We invented a parallel universe where we discovered the true motivations behind Dame Gothel's actions and the depth of her character in hopes of celebrating all the mothers in the world who are misunderstood by their own children. Some of us always think about our folks like they want to control us because of bad intentions. But in this story, we are reminded, however, to understand the cause and communicate about it. We also hope to help mothers find peace in letting their children go into the world of the unknown and relieve them from their burden of constant worrying. Next up, Erin Gruwell's story, as portrayed in Freedom Writers, is incredibly inspiring. Her dedication to her students and her innovative teaching method showcase the transformative power of education. What resonates most with me about Erin's journey is her relentless belief in the potential of every student, regardless of their background or circumstances. Her ability to connect with and empower her students through writing is a testament to the impact a passionate and empathetic teacher can have. Erin's story encourages us to look beyond the surface and invest in the potential of others, fostering an environment where everyone can thrive. And finally, we have Master Wu from Kung Fu Panda. If I could only choose one favorite episode in this season, it would no doubt be Master Wu. Not only it talks about my favorite character of all time, but it's also a masterpiece of self-actualization. From a nameless tortoise and the West-influenced Toby, all the way to this legendary Master Wu, we see a powerful journey that begins with an awakened heart that seeks understanding. The first stop he makes is, of course, the USA. I mean, we all strive to fulfill this cliche American dream. In the Land of Liberty, we see Max Hare, a character who needs to put others down in order to feel good about himself. Toby, on the other hand, merely sticks to what he knows best, which is to take one step at a time. And turns out, it's Max's arrogance that helps Toby win the race. I think we can all resonate with Toby here. We don't need to change ourselves to be what we're not. Yes, Toby wins the race, but it's not because he becomes the fastest in the forest. The fastest is still the hare. It's because he doesn't give up when things seem impossible. After the race, we see Toby being awakened the second time, but this time nudged by a wise owl. As the saying goes, even eagles need a push. Toby is so humble that he believes he's slow and unremarkable when being told he has the potential to become a great leader. In life, we can easily be like Toby, feeding ourselves with negative impressions of ourselves. We're not good enough, we're not talented enough, we're not courageous enough. These self-talks ultimately become true because of our stubbornness to see otherwise. Now, if you have a friend, a family member, or anyone in your life, like the wise owl who believes in your potential and tells you that, believe in them and start changing your self-talks. Then the story leads us to see how Toby decides on his own to continue his quest of seeking a better understanding of himself. We know that a name is a powerful thing about our identity. For this Galapagos tortoise, the name Toby does not really capture the essence of his character. He merely uses it for convenience sake. It's not something that speaks to him. So when he wants to carve a life path for himself, he immediately strips the name away. In China, when he learns the characters Wu Gui, which mean tortoise in Chinese, it's as if a missing part of him returns. The name Wu Gui, which represents qualities like stability, endurance, and resilience, is such a basic yet powerful name. In short, Master Wu does not let the past dictate his future. He decides his own fate by giving himself the right name and fulfilling the name's destiny. Thank you all for joining me on this reflective journey through some of the most meaningful stories from our first season. I hope sharing my thoughts has inspired you to look at these tales in a brand new light. And now, I'm happy to announce that we have successfully wrapped up the first season of Tale by Belle. If you enjoyed this season, please leave us 5-star rating and share the podcast with your friends. A big thank you to all my followers and listeners. Your support has made this podcast possible. I love the enthusiasm and energy you bring to our channel every time you hit play on the story we have published. Next season, we have some fantastic episodes lined up, so don't miss out. Until next time, take care, keep listening and learning. This is your host, Bella Wee, signing off.